When I first came to Kin Canada, this was one of the first stories that was told to me, and it resonated with me, and it just helped reinforce the reason why I came to Kin Canada as your executive director. But great stories don't get told like that by happenstance. And we were very fortunate today to have the producer, writer, director of this production, Daniel Margetic. And I want to call him up, along with National President James and past National President and our current National Service Director, Henny Lees-Smith. We launched this documentary at last convention, and although, as you saw, the long list of people to thank at the end of the production, we never really did thank the people that really did support this great documentary. We wanted to kick that off with recognizing Daniel and Learnography for the work that they did with that. Thank you. Did we get a good picture there, Diane? Can you come up and take a good one? I think I'm the official photographer for this one, so you are now. Thank you. And Daniel, you got something to announce, right?
I just have some very breaking news. Some of you may be aware already that the film has been invited to a number of festivals and has won a number of awards. And just this morning, I was informed that we have just been invited to Cinefest Sudbury as well. So.
And I'll introduce National President James.
Thank you, fellow Kin. I'm here purely to thank the members in this room, and I'll tell you the start of the story. And we had a staff member, Nadine, who came to the board of directors meeting in November. This is about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago now. And she had an idea. It was our 75th anniversary of Milk for Britain. And she told us about this company by the name of Learnography, and said that we have an opportunity here to tell our story, and I really want to see this happen. And she said, and we said, like, what is it going to take to make this happen? She goes, well, we need to raise $50,000, and well, that shouldn't be a problem. When do you need it? Oh, 4 weeks. So in good Kin fashion, and for passion from a national staff member that started this journey, we went out to the membership across this country and we put together $50,000. We definitely have some stakeholders that help the wheels roll. We have some very large clubs that help, and I'm not going to go through today and go through every name here because there's quite a list, and I'm sure you don't want to listen to me for the next 20 minutes reading off club names. But, I want to do a special thanks actually to the Kin Canada Foundation, because at the time I was sitting on the foundation board, and I came to the board and said, hey, listen, this is what's going on. And Diane Rogers, Hal's daughter, was quite excited, as her history is an educator, and this is what Kin Canada is all about. It's educating, impacting our communities. And in today's dollars, we impacted, these children to the tune of $36 million, which is a truly phenomenal number. And Kin Canada has always been a huge impact, not only in our country, but across the water. And I'm very proud to be a national president. I'm very proud to be a kinsman and member of Kin Canada. Canada, and it's projects like this that that really bring the meaning of family together, and our family is worldwide. So today, this afternoon, what I'd like to do is we have, for all the clubs that are in attendance today, we have these little presentation plaques that we're going to give you, and then we'll do that kind of on the side here after we do this first ceremonial presentation. But I thought it was fitting to do our first presentation, and in due course, I'd like to ask the the Kin Club of Halifax President, Bill, to please come to the front of the room.
As National President James says, we have plaques for all those clubs. 44 clubs of the 78 clubs that contributed to this project are here in the room today. So let's give everyone a round of applause for that. As you know, our 100th anniversary is coming up in just a few short years. Planning has already started. And to give us an update on the work of the Centennial Committee is past National President and Chair of this committee, Ron Hanaszewski.
Thanks, Grant. Excuse me. National President James, fellow kin. Some of the work has started on the Centennial Committee. First, I'd like to acknowledge those members of the committee, Carol Cooper and Coop, who are in the room. Past National President Curtis Kimpton, Diane Terrian, and Michelle Yendel, and of course Grant is helping us out as well. So the 100th anniversary coming up, and I'm going to highlight very high level some of the things we're working on. One of the things that we are hoping, one of our goals, is that we'll have one member from every club represented at our 100th National Convention. And we're just giving you some brief ideas on how you could do that. We know that it comes with a cost. So an idea that came out was, just a simple 50-50, doing a convention quick cash, maybe some fines over the next 3 years, or simply just put it in your budget to make sure that you have someone at our next national convention. Also, we'll be relaying some goals on our National Day of Kindness. Of course, our service dollars, we'll set some goals for that year. Our service hours, service reporting, and we're hoping that each community will do a community centennial project as well. We'll hear a little bit more in just a few minutes about a 2020 centennial project concept that we're going to share with you here today, and hope to get your buy-in as well. Some of the national service projects that we're investigating, of course, is a dedication to our founder, Founder Hal. We're in talks with Vimy Oaks and the Vimy Oaks Foundation in regards to the oak trees from Vimy, and having those possibly in our communities as well. Again, your Community Centennial Service Project. We're in discussions with Breakfast Clubs of Canada, and we're looking at a way to investigate how can we set a Guinness World Record around our 100th anniversary. So, and again, if you have any thoughts on any of these or others, please feel free to contact anyone in the committee. Of course, we're looking at commemorating through Canada Post with a stamp, as well with the Royal Canadian Mint with a coin or coin sets. We are in discussions with them. Of course, their main focus has been Canada 150, but we are in discussions and with them and on a good timeline to make these come to fruition. Again, we're looking at some special 100-year recognition awards, and we'll be working with or passing that off to the National Awards Committee. Of course, Canada celebrated its 150th birthday, and for the whole year leading up to July 1st this year, celebrated 150 and kind of culminated on July 1st. So we're looking to kick off that year on February 20th, 2019 and celebrate the whole year. We're just 1 year, 6 months, 5 days, and roughly 13 hours until February 20th, 2019. I'm not sure on the minutes and seconds, but they're ticking by quickly. As well, of course, the big culmination, the 100th birthday of kincanada, February 20th, 2020. 2 years, 6 months, 5 days, 13 hours. So, one of the things we do want to share with you today is the logo that we have come up for as our design. We feel this shows, you know, the bold 100. Our years has some of the purple with our tradition, and we feel that this will be an opportunity to help brand kincanada and the time that we've put in, both through leadership, service, and fellowship, to celebrate our 100th anniversary. Of course, kincanada, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the Send Milk, the Milk for Britain. Of course, the documentary we just saw. Now, one of the centennial project concepts that we're coming up with for 2020, we'll call Daniel back up to kind of expand on as well. But we are again working with Learnography to present a 2020 centennial concept project to our clubs throughout kincanada. So that's basically where we're at, high level with the committee. If you have any questions, please feel free to find us. But at this time, I'd like to call up again Daniel Margetic, the media manager for Learnography.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, bear with me while the presentation loads. Okay. So it's an absolute pleasure to come back and talk to you about the potential next project we would like to do in connection to the 100-year anniversary. We were very enthused when Grant called us and asked us to talk to him about potential ideas that we could do around the 100-year anniversary. And the initial conversation centered around, well, let's do another documentary. And although we would have been absolutely happy to do another documentary similar to the style, Milk for Britain, or something within the same vein, we thought that we had spent a good amount of creative energy working together to develop something new and interesting in the Milk for Britain documentary, an animated documentary that is different from your standard documentary that you would see. And we thought, well, why not try and push that envelope again? So the concept and the idea that we landed on, and that we were very excited about, was an interactive documentary. So I know that some of you might be thinking about, ooh, what is an interactive documentary? And I will get to that in a second. But what we really wanted to try and achieve through that interactive documentary is to teach Canadians, particularly young Canadians, about the work of kin, and engage young audiences in the celebration and service work in the lead up to the 100-year anniversary. And of course, acknowledge the tremendous work that's being done by kin clubs now and the work that has been done over the last 100 years. So the reason why we are suggesting the interactive documentary is because it has the potential to engage the audience in a different way, in a more interactive way, to allow them to reach into the story and work through it on their own time and pace. But in addition, it also has the benefit of allowing us the access to potential additional funding for the project, as well as the increased opportunity for publicity and public acknowledgement. Obviously, we were very happy to be invited to a number of festivals and win a couple of awards for Filmmaker for Britain. But in the interactive documentary space, there's an even greater potential for both publicity and potential accolades, and provided that we do our work correctly. Right? So I wanted to give you a couple of different inspirations that we're looking at when looking at an interactive documentary. So we did not invent the interactive documentary. It's been around as a concept for the last 5 to 6 years. A lot of Canadian documentary filmmakers are particularly on the forefront of that. The High Rise documentary, which was done in collaboration with the NFB, was one of the the seminal works in interactive documentary. So I'm just going to work through a couple of examples, and if you're with your indulgence. So the first one that I'm going to just very briefly. Stop my presentation first. So the complexity of an interactive documentary ranges depending on the individual project. I was really interested in this one, which was done in as part of the Killing Kennedy documentary. Feature film. It wasn't a documentary. And the way that this particular interactive documentary works is it compares the lives of Kennedy and Oswald in parallel. And it's a very simple site. It's just a scroll down site, but as you go through it, it reveals more and more information about each man as you go through their individual lives in chronological order. So it's a very simple down-scrolling site, but it really engages you in the story of Oswald and Kennedy in a very new and interesting way that you wouldn't necessarily get in a linear documentary. Moving on to High Rise, which is the NFB documentary. This one, it was really popular when it first came out, and essentially all that it is, well, it's not all that it is, but it tells the story of high-rise buildings from the Tower of Babel all the way to the modern high-rises. And it allows you to, as you're looking at this documentary, unfortunately I don't have audio hooked up through here, but as you go and go through this documentary, at any point you can dig in and look at additional information on your own, and then when you're done with the additional info, you just go back to the film. So this was a purpose-built interactive documentary. Another approach that we've seen that has been sometimes successful is to take an existing linear documentary and then wrap it in an interactive format. And The Sons of Gallipoli is a beautiful documentary in its own as a linear video documentary, but it's an absolutely stunning piece of work as you go through it and interact with it. So not only do they have a very beautiful set of visual and video images that they've created, that they have as part of their documentary, but their interactive component is very nice. So I invite you to take a look at these documentaries. I'll provide the links if anybody wants to sort of interact with them in a greater fashion. The navigation piece for the Sons of Gallipoli is particularly interesting because it focuses on the circles. So the further you go out, that's how you go through chapters, and the timeline of the video goes around a circle with individual points indicated that allow you to dig deeper into the story. So looking at those various examples that we've seen, we were quite inspired at the potential for doing something in a similar vein for the 100th anniversary. And we're looking at a concept that looks both at the 100 years through a geographic approach as well as a timeline approach. So allowing the audience to navigate the Kin 100-year story both through the 100 years as well as through a map of Canada. And we were going to populate it with various content that is both archival in nature and some new content that we would go and record and generate over the next over the next 2 years. The audience target for this was would be kids in grade 5 to 6, similar to how we did it with Milk for Britain. We find that that's a really key and good age range to pitch it to because it allows not just that grade level to appreciate, but also the grade levels below and the grade levels above. If you go too low in grade level, you end up losing everybody who's above that. And if you go too high, you end up losing everybody who's below that. So we find that pitch in terms of age range works well in engaging a much broader audience, particularly if we're wanting to focus on school children to begin with. So obviously, one of the things that everybody will want to know is what is the financing for this? So in terms of the budget for this project, we are looking for approximately $100,000 that Kin would contribute. And because we are such strong believers in this project, we are going to try and raise additional funds on our own through various funding bodies that provide funding for interactive and media work in Canada, and that includes. Thank you. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up about how easy that is. In my previous life as an independent producer, I can tell you that is a long and laborious process. But we are committed to pursuing that to its utmost final ability that we have, right? So, and we are looking at potentially raising through that process somewhere between $40,000 to $150,000 through other alternate financing means. For those of you who have contacts with your local broadcasters in your community, I will be very interested in talking to all and any of you after my presentation. So the schedule for this process, starting in September and going into December, we will undertake outreach to potential funders. Obviously, at the same time, there will be fundraising efforts on the part of Kin. In the early part of 2017, we'll be undertaking applications for development funding for the project. For the latter part of the year, we'll be going through the applications for production funding. And then through all of 2018, we'll be undergoing research, content gathering, scripting, and media production. And then in 2019, we'll be working on the interactive component of the documentary. So, in addition to all of the documentary portions, we'll be working on the media marketing and release of the documentary as well, including developing press release, market and advertising campaign, obviously a festival and awards campaigns as well, and similarly to the Milk for Britain documentary, viewer's guide and a study guide for the doc. So, at this point, I'm sure everybody's wondering, okay, you've talked a lot, what is this actually going to look like, right? Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to switch over to the other side so we can actually play the documentary as well. So in order to help illustrate what we're trying to get at, and I beg your indulgence, this was put together over a period of 2 weeks, not 2 years like the other interactive documentary examples that I've showed, and not the 2-year timeline that we have in our path. So we launched the documentary with a couple of brief intro slides first. young Corporal Harold Allen Rogers, better known as Hal, returned home to Hamilton from the war. Besides the uniform, he carried two things with him: shrapnel in his leg from the Battle of Amiens to remind him of the hardships of war, and, more importantly, the fond memories of camaraderie of his fellow young men.
So that first intro leads us to a map of Canada and a timeline that allows the audience to navigate through the interactive documentary. As they do, different things pop up on the map that they're able to click on and find out more about the story.
I lived a parochial life before I joined up. When I was assigned to the Kootenai Battalion, this was my first experience with young Canadians from the mountains, the prairies, from Quebec, and the Maritimes. I can never forget how we shared a common belief that what we were doing was supposed to make Canada a better and stronger nation. Sure, we went through hell in the trenches, but what made it bearable was the comradeship, the feeling of working together that I received from my buddies.
Like many Canadians who fought in World War I, Hal was underage when he joined in 1916. Though he was barely 17, the Army at the time was not overly concerned with proof of age, as long as the soldier was in fighting shape. His youth was no obstacle, and Hal quickly rose to the rank of corporal. He was gassed at Passchendaele, but continued as an active soldier until he was wounded at Amiens on August 8, 1918, a few short months before the armistice of November 11, 1918.
So at any point, the audience member can either take a stop, go back, advance to another part of the story, and throughout this process, they get to find out more and more about kin at each particular point, both in geography and in time. So the documentary goes on to provide...
I saw him on the street and introduced myself. I had noticed him in church occasionally, and he impressed me as someone who might take an interest in my plan for a club. He said his name was Harold Phillips. I went on to explain that I was a comparative stranger in the city and had been toying with the idea of starting a service club where young fellows could find companionship and participate in club programs. Phillips thought it was a good idea. We each agreed that we could interest another young chap.
Bonus points to those people who can point out the Nanking Cafe in this photo.
Within
So I'm just going to fast forward because I think by this point you got the idea. It leads us through the history, leads us into back into the war, and then in the post-war era, looking at projects that are ongoing, that have really shaped CAN, and that continue to inform the work that CAN does today. Whether it's organ awareness, whether it is the work that has been done on cystic fibrosis, and as well as some more local programs such as STARS in Alberta or Miracle in Saskatchewan. I've heard it's popular. Of course, it doesn't stop there. This is just an appetizer of the volume of content and the type of content that can really shape this documentary. Really, what I want to impress on you is that, as it says here in the last slide, your story goes there, and it can't be told without you, both in terms of content, but also without your generous support. We are. I know that your grant and other leadership members will be talking to you about the fundraising part, but also please be on the lookout on how you can help inform the story of the interactive documentary, because no matter how much research I do through the archives, there is a real living memory out there, not just about what's going on right now, but also about what's going on in the past, and it will not be as rich without your participation and your support, and quite literally your voice, literally your voice. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation, and I can take any questions or not. Well, one of the things that's interesting about this potential for the interactive documentary, as opposed to a static standard media documentary, is that once you do the standard one, that's it. It's in a piece of media and it's done. And that's not. There's nothing wrong with that. It becomes a reference point at that point in time, and it can be really powerful, as the documentary currently is. But with an interactive documentary, you have the opportunity to always go in and expand on that story, whether it's something that was maybe initially missed, or maybe it's something new that has happened since, that you can add and keep adding to that timeline and to that map of things that are going on that can really resonate with the audience.
Any other questions, Daniel? So the good news, Daniel, is you're hanging around this afternoon, and you're going to be joining us for dinner tonight at Pier 21. And you've got a couple of laptops.
Yes, sorry. I had a spiel and I completely forgot. So I have a couple of laptops with me. You can come and grab me either at any point today. I'll make sure that they're well charged, and then you'll have the opportunity to click through the interactive concept boards at your own leisure, rather than me just going click, 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 click. So yeah, I invite you to come and talk to me, both about, and take a look at the documentary, come and talk to me about any ideas that you might have, but also any contacts for local broadcasters.
So past National President Ron and his minions are handing out a document just around the pledging process that we're going to go through. We really want this to be your project, and we're structuring it very similar to how we did with Milk for Britain, where we'll be asking the clubs to support this project in the tune of $100,000. The pledge form that we're handing out right now will sort of explain that. We are going to spend between now and December to bring awareness to this project and help clubs understand the importance of it, not just from the perspective of telling our story from the past, but also from a perspective of being able to put Canada again in the hearts and minds of the next generation. And if we structure this right, and just looking at some of the stuff that Daniel had already done, when you think about the references to World War I and some of the learning that can happen to that, it could very easily come up on the screen of a student who's just Googled World War I. So we want to be able to position that. So it's a good way for us to help participate in the education of young people, while at the same time telling the tremendous story that we have to tell. If you look at the roadmap, and there will be roadmaps on the table on Saturday, along with we also released the roadmap back in July. This really talks about us updating the way in which we do tell our story, and telling our story in such a way that resonates with the next generation of Canadians who will be looking to spend time with service organizations like ourselves. So we're pretty pumped about this project, and we hope it gets your support, and would encourage you to seek out Daniel. And I'll tell you, the large screen doesn't do it justice. The first time I rolled through the concept board, I was almost, and I'm not lying, in tears. I am not lying. I was in tears. Oh, there we go. There we go. We got our first pledge from the Campbell River Kinsmen. Thank you, Andy, for $2,000. Great, thank you. Thank you, Andy. Wow. What do I have to do for that? Coming to Yorkton, there we go. So thank you very much. So, terrific. So, Steve. Well, of course, every province has their own rules around that. In Ontario, Steve, I'm not sure. Do I have any resident Ontario experts on that? They'll find you and they'll let you know. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you to past National President Sean and Chair of the King Canada Foundation. So that's just a few minutes' work, and I've raised $12,000 for this project. I can't imagine what the next few months will bring. So thank you very much for that. So it's going to conclude our formal portion of lunch. Please enjoy the rest of the afternoon. And again, for those clubs who are here who donated to the Milk for Britain campaign, we've got your plaque waiting here for you and a photo op if you want with our national president and national service director. So thanks and have a great afternoon. Carol, any announcements or anything? No announcements? Just going to